Well, we're back. We are back. You ready?
Yes, I am.
Try it again.
Yes, I am now. Hey, guys.
Listen, y'all.
We're back.
We back, and there's a lot of you guys asking the questions like, what city should I visit? You're going to find out there's only one city in all of the country of Panama, but we're going to get into that. The question is, what neighborhood? Why are you
confusing people?
I know.
You're confusing
It's the neighborhoods. Guys, if you're here, do me a favor, chime in. Let us know where you're tuning in from because we're getting ready to go for a ride. Real quick, it's another edition of Behind Closed Doors with the Brookses. We're back. Excited to be back with you guys. We're live. For those of you guys who have never tuned in, I'm Glenn P. Brooks Jr. I'm an author. I'm a speaker. I'm a coach. I'm a pastor. We live in Panama, and sitting right here to my left is the lovely, beautiful, bronze-like little copper tone thing going on.
Sheri A. Brooks Jr., author, speaker, relationship coach, and co-pastor, and it's great to be here with you guys today. It is a lovely, lovely Thursday.
Lovely Thursday. Listen, y'all, we're live. If you can, do me a favor. Go ahead and tag somebody, share this out, let them know that we is in the building. And we're going to be talking about everything neighborhoods. And so if you tuned in a couple of weeks ago, Sheri and I had our realtor on the call, Matthew Marks, and we're going to be doing a workshop here next week. Actually, it's full, but we're going to give you an opportunity to get on the wait list for the next one. It's an investment workshop in essence, and when I say workshop, really a Q&A for those of you guys who may be interested perhaps in investing internationally. That's a tongue twister. Investing internationally, if that's something that you ever thought about, wanted to know about, maybe you are looking to move to Panama at some point, you want to buy a home that you want to rent out until you get here type thing, or maybe you want to move and you want to lease a place before you buy it. Matt's going to be able to answer all your questions, so check out the descriptions in the links below, but that's next week. But for today, I want to kind of sort of set that up because we're going to talk neighborhoods. And so Sheri and I will be celebrating 2 years in a row, babe.
Yes, 2 years living abroad in Panama on June 30th. Can you believe it?
No, not really.
Believe that we are here, that we did it, and we've survived.
Speaking of survival, people don't realize that Panama City is a city in the middle of a jungle. As a matter of fact, Metropolitan Park is a park that's in the middle of the city, which is basically the jungle preserved in a way where the animals still migrate back and forth, and you can see all the unique animals here to Panama in that park. It's about 2.5 miles, I think, from where we live. As a matter of fact, off of our balcony, we can actually see that particular park. And the neat thing is, babe, is that it's different than any other place in all of the country. So let me just give you guys a quick tip. If you've never been to Panama, please understand, A, it's not an island, it's an isthmus. It connects Costa Rica.
What? It's a who? It's a what?
It's an isthmus.
No
lisps. Go back to 7th grade geography. I know it's tough for most of us to remember that far back, but if you just simply Google it, it's a piece of land that connects two countries and two bodies of land. So that's what an isthmus is.
But it's water on the sides of it too.
Correct. Country. Let me go down the list. Costa Rica is to the west. And then you have Colombia to the east, right?
What's to the north?
To the north is actually the Atlantic Ocean.
And what's to the south?
Is the Pacific Ocean.
Okay.
And so Panama City is on the Pacific side of the country, and then Cologne is on the other side, about 45-minute drive to the other side of the country. So I say all of that to say this.
So it's like a bridge between the two countries.
Yeah, I don't think of it like that.
Kind of, sort of.
That's a good.
That's what an isthmus is.
Linda, listen, I didn't mean to give a whole geography lesson. I just want people to understand.
But it's not an island.
It is not an island. I've had people say.
It's connected to land on both sides.
Yeah. So I've had people ask that question 1,000 times. Anyway, I just want to go back, y'all. The city of Panama City is unique. It is considered the most developed city in all of Central America. So when you think about cities, I want you to think, for example, Miami, right? Miami is a city with skyscrapers. It sits on the water, all the things. And there's not quite many cities in America quite like it, right? Because of the temperatures and all those kinds of things. Panama, that would be Panama City. And so it's an incredibly metropolitan area. There are no beaches in the city limits. So if you're coming here to go to the beach, you're going to have to go a little bit outside. We're going to talk a little bit about that, but we're going to talk about some neighborhoods that people are thinking about visiting, people thinking about living, and what your thoughts are, pros and cons, and how it goes.
Right. So before we get into the neighborhoods, I just want to, I'm going to give my little, I guess, I don't know if it's a geography lesson, but whatever. So in the states, we have states, counties, cities, towns. So here in Panama, there are provinces. Within the province, there's, in the province of Panama, there are two Panama provinces, Panama Oeste and Panama. And then in the province of Panama is Panama City. Then there are neighborhoods within Panama City. So there are not multiple cities per se throughout Panama. Panama City is the only city when we think of what a city is here in Panama.
Yeah, and Quentin, I'm going to tell you, we lived in Atlanta for 9 years, and I can tell you, you know, a lot of people say they're from Atlanta, but they actually are from Marietta. So I just want to give you, that ain't Atlanta. And those folks that are from Atlanta, no, that's Marietta. Like, don't do that. Don't do that. So we're giving you this education because, especially if you're looking to come visit, you're going to need to know this, because a lot of people will book their flights, book schedules, and really don't have a working knowledge of how the city is sort of laid out. And we're going to hope to do a little bit of that today. But yeah, let's get into it, babe. Top 3 cities. So we're going to talk about 3 neighborhoods that you got to see. That's the title of today's segment. 3 neighborhoods that you have to see here in Panama City.
Right. So if you're coming to Panama, whether you're coming here on a scouting trip because you're considering relocating, or you're just coming here on vacation, these are some areas that you want to see so you can get a full view of what the city is like. So the first area we're going to talk about is Casco Viejo, which is actually the historic area, the historic district. It's a UNESCO World Heritage Site. I'm going to read so I'll make sure I get these facts straight. So if y'all see me looking down, it's a UNESCO World Heritage Site. It's rich in history, featuring colonial era architecture, cobblestone streets, restored buildings that reflect Panama's cultural heritage. So when you think of Casco Viejo, you want to think of like a New Orleans. You want to think of what is it in Colombia? What's the
So Cartagena and Colombia, if you've ever been there, think Old Town San Juan in Puerto Rico, think Cuba. Right. There are a lot of people who come to Costco and they say, man, we just had a person that did our foot detox the other day, a couple weeks ago. He's Cuban, and he was saying how Costco makes him feel like he's home. And so he said it looks just like Havana in that sense, but it's much more mainstream, I should say. So, but yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry, babe.
Right. So you're going to have the architecture there. You have the old world. You have the Spanish architecture. You have Spanish. You have American. You have the French. Yeah. All that architecture is there in that area. Like I said, with the cobblestone streets. Now, Casco Viejo has been built up. It once was very run down. It was gang-ridden. The government came in. They took over that area. The president's house is actually located in that area, so it's extremely safe there, and now it has become a bustling neighborhood. There's a vibrant nightlife there. There are rooftop bars, there are restaurants, there are plenty of things to do, boutique hotels in that area. Yep. And it's a cultural hotspot. There are a lot of museums there. There are a lot of the cathedrals there that you can go and view. So it's a lot to do there in that neighborhood, and it's right along the water, along the bay, so you can actually get water views there. It's very picturesque. It's a place you definitely want want to go and visit when you come to Panama. Now, as far as for residential and tourism, there are people that live in that area. I would not live there because it is so bustling. You're not going to get much sleep at night. But it's a great place for investment properties because a lot of people come visit. They stay there in an Airbnb. Actually, the first time we came to Panama, we stayed in Casco Viejo for 10 days, which was a great experience because we got to experience the nightlife as well as being able to get around throughout the city and visit other areas. And so it's definitely, I would say, one of those top spots, I would say, is definitely a must-see area whenever you come to Panama.
Yeah, think of Costco as touristy. It's sort of a nestled city to itself. When you're there, you can actually see the quote downtown Panama on one side. The other side is actually the Panama Canal, and from some rooftops, you can actually see the Bridge of Americas and different sites where it's kind of unique to Panama. I think the thing that people need to understand when you come to Costco, expect tourist kind of a feel. It's going to give you snapshots of the history in terms of Panama. You're going to see some indigenous artwork and stuff like that. But in terms of Panamanian culture, in terms of how the natives or the people who are the indigenous folks, that's not Costco. So I just want you guys to be really, really clear on that. Absolutely will change your date night life. I promise you. So when Sheri said that we visited for 10 days, that was the place that caused us to fall in love with the country. And quite frankly, it was the place that made her say, you know what, I'm trying to move here. And, 5 months after we visited that one time for 10 days, we were living here full time. So that's the whole thing. We're going to get to some of you guys' questions. I see you, Sweet Lotus. Good to see you. If you have questions, start loading them up in the chat. There's quite a few of you guys in the room. I definitely want to consider what you're thinking about. We're going to talk about 3 neighborhoods. And then if you live here in Panama City, particularly, and you live in a neighborhood that we're not talking about, feel free to flood the comments and talk a little bit about your area where you live, maybe some pros and cons of why you chose that. The last thing I'll say before we go to the next one, babe, is that Panama City has a lot to offer everyone. And so if you about that nightlife and you about that, you feel like you want to be in Times Square or the French Quarter, like on a regular, go ahead and move to Costco. It absolutely will deliver. I guarantee you.
Right, and another thing about Costco, before we move on to the next neighborhood, there is a plethora of restaurants. Every type of food you could ever want, you can find, from Italian food to Brazilian food to everything. You can find it there in Costco. Some of the best seafood, everything is there in Costco Viejo. So it definitely is. It's a tourist spot. Know that you're going to run into a lot of tourists there in that area. You're not going to actually run into a lot of locals hanging out there. Now, the locals, of course, work there, but it's not a spot that locals hang out in per se. It's more so designed for tourists to come in. So it's a great place. It's a great entry point into Panama because you'll feel comfortable, you'll feel safe. And I'll say this, in Panama, period, you're going to feel safe. But that's one of those areas you can get out, you can walk around at night and feel safe and go to, people do bar hops there, bar crawls. They do restaurant crawls. So you got a lot of things that you can do there in Casco Viejo.
Yep. Well, we're going to go on to the next one again. For those of you guys who's just jumping in, I'm Glenn P. Brooks Jr. I'm an author, I'm a speaker, I'm a coach, I'm a pastor. We actually run an online Bible study every Saturday morning for expats and people around the world who find themselves displaced in a sense, or maybe culturally they can't quite connect to the local church scene, things that they're worship that they're used to here in Panama because of the language barrier, because of the cultural gap. You may find a little awkward, worshiping. So we created Breakfast in the Word. You can find out more about that by checking out the links in the descriptions below. We're going to move on talking about 3 Panama City, Panama neighborhoods, and that you absolutely have to see. The first one, Casco Viejo, it's always going to be near and dear to our heart. It is the place that we fell in love with Panama. And then the second one is? The second one is
Costa del Este. Now, these are 2 extremes of what Panama City is. So whereas Casco Viejo is very historic, Costa del Este is very modern. You almost are not, well, I'll say, you don't feel like you're in Panama when you're in Costa del Este. It feels like you're in Miami. It feels like you're in a urban metropolitan area. It's slightly on the edge of the city, so it's not in the heart of the city. And so you're in and I'm trying to be nice.
I would call it a planned community.
Yeah, it's definitely a planned community. You have plenty, some of the most affluent lived in that area. There are luxury high-rises, gated communities, modern infrastructure. It is popular among expats as well as families. It's very safe there. They have some international schools there. There is some green space there, although it is more of a concrete jungle because you're not in the city. Because it is a planned community, there is some greenery, but it's not going to be as much as if you're intertwined in the city and some of the other neighborhoods where you're going to have more parks and things like that. Their green space is more open, so you can definitely tell that it was planned. It also is a major business hub. There are many major headquarters. It's headquarters for some major corporations there in that area.
Yeah, Chef Emil just chimed in, babe, and shout out to Siete Granos, one of our favorite coffee shops. I always characterize Siete Granos as it is a restaurant masking as a coffee shop. I promise you. I just had breakfast there this morning, Sheri. That breakfast burrito is to die for. There's one in our neighborhood. And then speaking of Costco, to go back real quick, they're getting ready to, I believe, Chef, let us know, are you guys open in Costco yet? I know that you guys been working on getting it open. And if not, what are the opening dates for it in Costco Viejo? Because we certainly want to know. Guys, if you have questions, trust me, we see them. We're going to get to them. We're going to go through these 3 neighborhoods, and then we're going to open this up for Q&A and talk a little bit about, all of some of the things that may be closer to your heart. Here's what I will say about Costa del Este. I want you to think sanitized Panama. Yeah. I want you to think it is a luxury community. It is the place that if you are a South Beach, Miami fan, it doesn't have the character of South Beach. It definitely has the upscale of South Beach in that regard. It's the higher end of the local community. If you are here locally, the wealthier Panamanian, local Panamanians, not the uber wealthy per se, but the wealthier of locals live there. It is a place where a lot of expats live because it's so, if you have navigation issues physically, Costa del Este is a great neighborhood because all the sidewalks are incredibly paved. I think the fiber optics run underground. It was built specifically to kind of cater to people who are used to that kind of stuff. Often the people that live there, they don't necessarily, although they don't have to leave, they will migrate down to the city or Costco to hang out, but then they're going home, which is on the completely other end of the Central Costera, and we're going to talk about that. It's a whole thing. So Costa del Este is nice if that's your thing. It's not ours, but I can promise you they got some great restaurants. We've been there a gazillion times, and but if you want to live there, certainly if you want to visit and do the Airbnb thing there, you can get that over there and all that sort of stuff. Sheri?
Right. Costa del Este is a self-contained neighborhood. They have hospitals, they have a mall, they have gyms, restaurants. Everything that you need is right there. You got your own grocery store. You have everything there. So like we said, it's a planned community. So everything is there. For me personally, it just doesn't feel like I'm in Panama there because it's so well planned. I guess is the best way that I can put it. It's very modern, very upscale, and it just feels, like Glenn said, whitewashed. It's a very nice neighborhood. It's definitely someplace you want to go visit so that you can see that side of Panama. But it's not, if you're coming here for the culture, that's not necessarily the area that you're going to get a lot of cultural references when you're there in that neighborhood, although there are Panamanians that live there.
We're going to move on, but real quick, I got to go to these comments. First of all, Siete Granos is opening up June the 26th in Costco Viejo. I promise you, you want
Panama
some. It's right in. It's inside.
Canal.
Yeah, it's inside the Panama Museum, the Panama Canal Museum, and so I want you guys to understand that some of the best Panamanian coffee, their food is to die for. I promise you. Go get the breakfast burrito. You're welcome. Get the chicken and waffles there. You're welcome. Get some geisha coffee there. You are welcome. Why am I going in on it? Because, Chef Emil is my friend, and he runs an incredible restaurant. He's also a local television foodie, celebrity chef, and he has his own TV show. Chef, do me a favor. Put your information for the TV show that you do every week, I think it is, that you're there live or whatever the thing is so that they can find you. And also your information, maybe your Instagram account, so that people can connect with you while they are here in the city. Babe, before we move on, the Costa del Este spelling is correct, Brian, aka East Coast English. Good to see you. Yeah, I think we're good. We're going to talk about the major differences between David and Panama City, Quentin. So just stand by. I just want to make sure you guys know that we're here and we see you. You want to stay away from the jungle atmosphere, scared of all the creepy crawlers. Well, Paula, you may want to rethink moving to Panama. I'm just saying. Well, when I say that, that's a little strong. I will say this. Living in the city definitely gets you away from it. But we do live in a jungle. I need you to preface everything that you're doing by that. In 2 years, we've never seen a scorpion in our house. In 2 years, we've never... Why are you shaking your head, babe?
In the city, you're not going to have the creepy crawlies. So, yes, we live... Panama is a rainforest. The country of Panama is a rainforest. In the city, you're not going to run into a lot of, you might get a mosquito here and there. You might, run it. You might see a little gecko every here and there, but you're not going to have an influx of those little animals. Now, when you get further outside of the city, when you go outside of Panama City into the interior of the country, that's when you're going to run into that. So any of the neighborhoods that we're talking about, you're not going to really run into that. You may see a gecko here and there. You may see, just normal. Well, I don't think I've seen a spider since I've been here.
I've seen plenty of spiders. I have, yeah. Well,
you ain't told me about them.
That's because one time it was crawling up the wall and you weren't here.
Okay. No, that wasn't a spider. I thought you said it was a gecko.
I've seen both.
Okay. Anyway.
Yeah.
But you don't get a lot of the creepy crawlies here in the city. You're not going to have that. And that's one misnomer that I think people have when they think about Panama, because this is a rainforest. We do not live in the jungle. We live in a city that's in a jungle, but it's not in the jungle. It's I guess it's kind of confusing, but we live in a city. Think of any city anywhere else. Now, it's not a concrete jungle like we're used to in the U.S., where most major cities, there's no greenery. There's no green space. We have green space. There are parks. There are places like that, but it's not like overgrown because we're in the jungle. It's maintained. It's not, we live in a city. I don't know how else to put it.
I think you did it. I don't think there's any other way to put it. I think that you just have to understand that, Panama is a rainforest, and the city, Panama City, is a city that's emerging out of that rainforest. Let's keep it moving, babe. We've got 20 people in the room. I appreciate you guys for being here. Share it out. Let us know that you're here. If you got any questions, put it in the chat, and we're going to do our best to get here. So we've talked about 2 cities already, neighborhoods particularly. I'm going to call them neighborhoods that you want to visit, to visit in terms of just to kind of hang out. Also to visit, especially if you're looking to move here, those are some areas that you want to be. Costco, you might want to think about, depending on your taste, if you're the history person, that sort of stuff. Or quite frankly, the next one we talked about is Costa del Este. The third one that I want to talk about is probably the most popular one right now. And in a minute, I think I'd like to kind of go through some pros and cons a little bit of what you might want to consider. And Chef is right. Small ones. It's not a big deal. No, it's not. I just don't want you to think that there's none. That's all I'm trying to establish. Because a lot of people there's small ones here in the city, but you don't have to be concerned. Babe, talk about the next one.
Okay, so the next area that we're talking about is the Santa Costera. It also is considered Avenida de Balboa. You may have heard it called that. And so it's the coastal beltway. It's right along the Bay Area. It's the main stretch that runs through the city. And you have waterfront views along there, along the Pacific coast. There are parks. There's a walkway there that you can walk from one end to the other. It is where on every Sunday they shut down the road, so that on one side of the road completely, so that joggers, bikers can come out and exercise, walkers. And it's usually like from 7 o'clock in the morning to I think like 12 or 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Every Sunday they shut it down because it becomes an activity area. There are marathons that go on there. It's a lot of things, bike rides, all kinds of things that go on there. But it's a great place. People come and spend family time there. It becomes an open air park, basically, that whole area on Sundays. But even during the week, people are out there walking on the walking path, riding their bikes, doing a lot of things. One of the biggest draws to that area is the view, the water view, because in the condominiums and the hotels along that area, you do get a water view. You can look out at the bay. You can see the Panama Canal, the ships in the causeway to the Panama Canal. You'll see them sitting out there waiting to go through the canal. There are also a lot in certain areas along that area. There are a lot of restaurants. There are a lot of hotels. Now, I will say that is also a more touristy area, and the pricing for some of the restaurants there is catered more to tourists. It's definitely not necessarily catered toward locals. But if you want a water view, that is a great area to be. One, I guess I don't know if you want to get into the pros and cons yet, but one other thing is, like I said, that's the central roadway that goes through the city. And so there are parades. There are a lot of things that happen on that main road. So if you think about any main road going through any city, this is that main thoroughfare. Now, another thing, talking about thoroughfares, in Panama, we do not have what we know as highways in the U.S. So there are no interstates. There are no major highways that you will travel across the country in. So it's roads. And so this is one of the roads that feeds into the interior. You can go from one end of the country to the other, and it'll pass you through Panama City.
Yeah, no, I love it. I absolutely love it. Babe, one of the things that we're going to get into and just pros and cons, I'll start there. When you think Centro Costera, think busy. During the day from 9 to 5 as people are coming and going from work, it is the central area that goes through. So it's a tremendous amount of traffic. And whether you live on the 3rd floor or the 30th floor, many times you're going to hear that traffic. It also is during protests and protest season, protest culture. Protesters will often target that area because it's so heavily traveled. When I say target, not in a bad way, but that's where they're going to show up because they're going to be seen. So just make sure, especially if you're going to be driving. Now, Sheri and I have elected not to have a car. We don't need one here, and we can get into that. And it's super easy to transport things, whether you're going out to eat, whether you're going out to get groceries, whether you're going out to shop. The transportation here is next level in terms of being able to get places, relatively inexpensive. But I will tell you that is a heavily trafficked area. Chef Emil said you guys should visit Cerro Azul. 45 minutes from the city, pleasant climate, 72 degrees. And I want to get into that in a second because these are areas, and Chef is 100% correct. If you want to be close to the city, but you don't want to be in the hustle and bustle, right outside the city, there are places like Cerro Azul. I think about, Punta Pacifica, for example. That's where a couple of our friends live. It's just over the Bridge of Americas. Just outside the city, you've got places like Clayton. Things like that. So there are Brisas is another area. It's outside the city. Santa Maria, which is on the other side of Costa del Este. These are places that are not far from the city, but they're not in the city, and so we didn't put them in this list. But I definitely want you guys, especially if you're from here, you live here, you know those places, put them in the chat because people are going to go back and they're going to research this stuff. Come on, babe.
Right. So as we get into the pros and cons, so one of the pros of being in one of the neighborhoods in the city, in the heart of the city, and these would include Costa del Este as well as Costco, which are basically on two separate ends of Panama City. So if the Centro Costera is the main thoroughfare that goes through the center, Costa del Este is on this end, Costco Viejo is on this end, and so they kind of sandwich the city in. And so one advantage about being in the city is that you do have access to public transportation. So there is a train system that runs through the city. There are also buses that run through the city, and the pricing is nominal. I think the bus is 35 cents. The train is maybe 55 cents, something like that. It's very nominal price. And even Ubering, you have access to Ubering in the city. You can catch, on average, an Uber for us costs maybe $3 from one end of the city, from where we're going, maybe 15, 20 minutes away to where we're going. I think the most expensive Uber I've gotten in the city may have been $10, and that's going from where we are out to Costa del Este. So transportation is definitely a pro. If you're living in the city, you don't have to drive. You don't have to have your own car. The con of living outside of the city is that you are going to need transportation. It's not as easily accessible to get Ubers. There is some public transportation out there, but it gets a little sketchy. And when I say sketchy, just as far as scheduling, it doesn't run on a regular schedule and things like that. There's not a lot of, depending on which direction you go in, there may or may not be access to the metro system here. And even then, depending on where you are, how close or how far you are from the metro. So you may have to rely on taxi cabs, which I do not recommend here in Panama because taxi service here is not regulated. Unlike in other places, especially in the United States, it's not regulated, so they can probably tell you whatever price there is. And also, just it's not regulated, so even as far as safety in those vehicles is not regulated. And so I don't advise people to use taxis. Sometimes you may have to, but I always recommend people, it's much safer to use Uber. I think there's also another service called InDrive that's available here. But I would recommend those services for transportation. But be mindful that if you're outside of the city, more than likely you're going to need to have your own transportation. So if you're coming to visit, you're going to need to rent a car. And I don't recommend that because another con about Panama when it comes to driving is they don't have regular street signs and regular addresses like we have in the U.S. that are readily recognizable. And so although, yes, you can use your Waze here, a lot of Panamanians don't use it. So you're not going to get those notifications that we're accustomed to in the States. And so it can be kind of a crapshoot trying to drive somewhere. And also, if you don't speak the language, I don't advise driving anywhere because if something happens, how do you ask for help?
No, Sheri, you hit the nail on the head, and I appreciate all the comments, guys. I just want to say again, there's quite a few of you guys in the room. If you can, do me a favor, you got a question, put it in the chat, and we're going to spend some time with you all this morning to answer as many questions as we can. The other thing is, if you want to jump on a call, Sheri does what we call taste and see consults, where think of her as a concierge that can put together what it is that you need based on your trip. And so she's not a travel agent. We're not travel agents. We're not relocation specialists. We're two people that live in the city that know that there are people who are interested in coming. And because of how warm we were welcomed, we wanted to set up a way where we could get on a call with you and really talk about your specific scenario. There are too many of you guys that have very specific needs that a platform like this isn't going to lend to that. So it's a 30, 45-minute call, whatever it is. She's going to also put you in contact with all of our folks, people who we use, people who we know to be true. That's the other thing I will say about the cons of Panama City. And I'll go back and piggyback off of what Sheri said about the taxis. I don't want you to think that the taxi driver is unsafe. His car may be unsafe. Let me just tell you that because, again, the regulation ain't there. There's no such thing as, like the emissions, for example, isn't the same as it is in the U.S. where you got to go get your car inspected by the state and all that. Now, even if you do, the enforcement ain't the same. So you may get a great car, you may not. They tend to be extremely tiny. And one of the things I know about us Americans, unfortunately, we come big. We come in extra large sizes. You will find that about the clothes here. If you are my double, triple, fourple X's, you may want to think about bringing your clothes with you and shopping online because you're not going to find those. So the cars are going to be tiny and you got all your bags and all your people and it's going to look like the clown at the circus. I promise you. So if that's what you into, God bless you. We're not mad at you. We're just saying, just know what to expect. Again, we're talking about some of the neighborhoods that you have to see. Costa del Este, we talked about the Centro Costera, which is the Avenida Balboa. We also talked about Casco Viejo, a couple of ancillary places that you might want to think about. San Francisco is a very popular area. That's where you're going to find Punta Patia, Punta Pacifico, and that's the higher end where the JW Marriott, many of you guys may be familiar with that. That's where that is, very high end of the city. It's not as neighborhoody feeling because, quite frankly, the roads do not have walkable sidewalks all throughout the entire city. There are some, but unlike, say, El Cangrejo, which is a completely walkable neighborhood, people don't move to San Francisco because they want to get out and walk everywhere. You're going to have to drive drive if you want to get to where you need to be, unless you live on, let's say, Parque El Mar or something like that, where your building kind of walks out to the park, which is a beautiful park. It's absolutely gorgeous. So I just want to let you know that these are just some of the things that you may want to consider. Babe?
Yeah, real quick, just want to go back to a couple of your questions. I appreciate you guys putting them in the comments. So I want to go back to Sweet Lotus. You it said you're a veteran, and welcome, fellow veteran, and you're planning to move, and you're thinking about someplace maybe 20 to 30 minutes outside the city, away from expat heavy areas. And so when it comes to expats, we're pretty much all throughout the city. I don't know if I would say in any places in the city it's expat heavy. I mean, because you're living amongst the locals in most areas, but there are some neighborhoods that's going to be more expats than others. But someplace 20 to 30 minutes outside the city that would still give you, that are still within the city district, are places like Albrook, Clayton. Punta Patia is a little bit further. Punta Pacifica. Panama Pacifica is a little bit further out. But those would be areas Costa del Este.
Verde.
Costa Verde. That's more than.
Yeah,
that's more than 20 or 30 minutes. Yeah, Costa Verde is a little farther. So those may be some areas you want to look at that are right there on the edge of the city, the city province. And so there are several neighborhoods that you can look at. There are some neighborhoods in the heart of the city that are that are more locally, that more locals live in, that expats live in as well, such as what's the Not Bella Vista. Bella Vista is
Marbella?
No, not Marbella.
Or Barrio?
No. Oh gosh, I can't think.
There?
Where Troy Tatum used to live.
El
Carmen.
El
Carmen is a great neighborhood. It's much more residential. It's actually one of the few neighborhoods in the city that there are homes. These are older homes, and most of the people that live in these homes are going to stay in the homes. Their families stay in those homes, but it's a much quieter neighborhood because of that, because it's a lot of homes in that area. So there are several neighborhoods that you can look at that will give you that feel within the city. And so thank you for that question.
Yeah, sorry about that, babe. I'm
That's
over here
okay.
pushing buttons. Yeah, appreciate that question. Chef just popped in. Gamboa. Gamboa is a gorgeous area, guys. If you love greenery, if you love rainforest, if you love being able to look out your window and see jungle, Gamboa is a place. It's also where you're going to find, and let me just kind of tap into this a little bit. Most of the places that you're talking about here are going to be condo/apartments, but Gamboa, you're going to find some single-family homes. You're going to find some single-family homes in El Carmen, where Sheri was talking about. Not a lot, but you'll find some of them, and there are a bunch of places throughout the area that you'll find things sprinkled. Guys, please do your own research. Do not allow us to drive the narrative of how you research. And the reason why is because it's from a limited perspective. Please understand, although we lived in Panama for 2 years, y'all, there's so much we have not explored yet. I want to talk a little bit about David and the western end of the country, just for the sake of the question that was posed a little bit earlier. And that was, what are some of the fundamental differences, I believe it was, between David and Panama City?
So David is in the western side of the country. So David is 8 to 10 hour drive from Panama City. You can catch a flight depending on traffic. You can catch a flight from Panama City to get out to David. David is Panama City is the only metropolitan city in all of Panama. David is a city. It's small. It does have some of the creature comforts of a traditional city. It has a shopping center. It has I think there is a hospital.
Yeah.
Out there. I think there's one hospital, if I'm not mistaken, in David. But oftentimes when individuals have major medical issues, even at that hospital, they have to medevac them here to Panama City. That's another thing we didn't talk about. Here in Panama City are the primary major full-service hospitals. There's a Johns Hopkins affiliate hospital here. We have several very high-end hospitals here that can provide care for you at every level of care here in the city. And so oftentimes people that live outside of the city have to come to the city for major medical services. And so, and David is definitely, it's hotter there because you're closer to Costa Rica. And so it is technically a city, but it's not. Don't think you're not going to go to David and see the high rises. You're not going to see the skyline like you have here in Panama City. It's not the same type of city, but it does have some of the fundamental things of a city there.
Yeah. Let me give you a little perspective just so that you guys understand. So David is on the edge of the coast like Panama City is on the other side of the country. David is a small city, smaller in comparison geographically than Panama City, but it's hot, just like Panama City is hot. It's going to be hot, humid, and that sort of stuff. However, just like in David, 45 minutes in towards the interior, you're going to run into Boquete and elevations that are much higher. The temperature changes really quickly by 10, 15 degrees on average, right? The same would happen here in Panama City. So if you went up to El Valle, for example, about an hour and a half outside of the city, that's where your temperatures are going to drop by 10 degrees. I think Chef mentioned it a little bit earlier. The other place that he mentioned, Serra Azul, okay? Again, temperatures will drop and those kinds of things. So when you think David, I just want you to think it's more city-like than anything out on the western part of the country, probably the most built-up city-type place, but it is not Panama City. And I need y'all to understand that a lot of people will call Sheri, get on a call, and they'll say, well, we just want to do a day trip to David. Are you interested in flying out there? Because that can be 6 to 8 hours just to drive from here to David, depending on the time of the night and the traffic, and it can take you 11. We went and it took us 11 to get back because of what you might run into, because what you don't know is there's only one major artery that goes between Panama City and David. So if there's a protest, if there is an accident, if there is a major rainstorm, you name it, it can shut you down. And now you're out there and God help you if you don't speak the language and you're by yourself. So I just want you guys to understand the real of what that is. But David is definitely doable for sure if that's what you like. It's definitely a lot less congested for sure. So just to give you some perspective.
And also just want to make sure that you understand David does have an airport, but it's a regional airport. It is not an international airport. So if you have to go back to the States, you have to fly back to Panama City and fly from Panama City out of the country. So Panama City is the international airport. David is a regional, so you can fly, to and from South and Central America, certain places in South and Central America, but you cannot fly to the U.S. from David. You would have to fly back to Panama or drive back to Panama City and then catch a flight from here back to the United States. And so I think we've answered everybody's questions. We appreciate you guys for tuning in, for jumping in with us today. I hope we gave you guys some information maybe you didn't know, gave you something to think about, something to ponder as you're thinking about coming to visit Panama. I love Panama. I love every area that we visited here. Every area has its own different feel. So one neighborhood is not like another neighborhood. And so you got to find your place, what suits you best, especially for those of you that are looking to relocate. I advise you to, if you are coming for a scouting trip, to allow yourself at least 10 days to be able to really get around the city and visit some of the different areas. And one last thing I wanted to touch on is somebody asked earlier in regard to language. When you come to a foreign country, any foreign country, I think it is important for you to learn some basics of that language to be able to communicate. Spanish is the native language of Panama. There are people that speak English here, but Spanish is their formal and official language. And so it would behoove you to learn some basic Spanish phrases before you come so you can communicate. Now, in the city, you will run into people that do speak English, but their first language is always going to be Spanish. And so out of respect, you want to try to learn a little bit so that you can communicate.
Yeah, and we're going to wrap this up here in a second. I did want to kind of just tap in real fast. When Chef Emil said that it takes about 40 minutes, yeah, there are flights that you can charter and jump on from Panama City to, say, Boquete, 45 minutes. To David, 45 minutes. You can run up to Costa Rica from here in about 45 minutes, an hour or so, depending on the flight patterns. The same with going down to Medellin, Colombia. So think of Panama City as the hub. This would be what Atlanta is to the southeast of the United States, or what JFK would be in the northeast of the United States, or what say Chicago O'Hare or Midland. Panama City is a major hub. Everything comes and goes through here. Everything else is sort of fed through here in a way. But I just want you guys to understand that. Torn between David and Boquete, Fab and Good Vibes. Listen, I can tell you they both are incredibly different. The good news is that you can split the difference. There's places between Boquete and David that you could live, and you're about 20 minutes from either or. We've got friends that live out in that area, and if you are a rural person, if you are a person that doesn't like the heat, you want the cooler temperatures throughout the year, if you're a person that don't mind being around a bunch of expats in a lot of ways, because the communities out that way tend to be more expat heavy, this is where you're going to experience. I'm almost, and we got to go more, but our experience is that you're going to experience a lot of the things that you experience in the U.S. out that way, because you have so many people from the U.S. migrating there, if that makes any sense, unless you just choose to live off the beaten path out that way and it's just you and you. So, I mean, it's possible out there. So all of those things are possible. You're very welcome, Paula, Quentin, very, very welcome. I appreciate you guys. Absolutely. For those of you guys who are looking to come through, that's what's up. Do me a favor, if you are planning a trip, consider jumping on a call with Sheri. She does these taste and see consults where she'll sit down and let you pick her brain. And now you're going to get phone numbers and connections and, people that we would recommend. Everybody that's skin folk ain't kin folk. I'm going to just put it out there. Everything that you see that glitters on the gram ain't gold, okay? And so I'm always of the opinion that if I know people in the city I'm going to, or I'm familiar and comfortable with some folks, I'm going to contact them so I can get a boots on the ground to show me around type perspective. And that's one of the things that we'll do. And it's a nominal fee to get on. Trust me, the information is going to be incredibly worth it. But more importantly, it helps you to get connected to community. And that's the last thing I'm going to say, babe. I think the biggest thing that's made the difference for us in the last 2 years is the communities that we've either created or become a part of, and it's changed our life.
Right. And so whenever you go to somewhere else, whenever you move, or just wherever you are, life is so much better in community. You don't have to go through it by yourself, and you get to gain wisdom from other people in that community. So as Glenn said, if you're interested in learning more about Panama, you're thinking about coming and you have questions, schedule a taste and see consult with me. I've done a lot of research. It's in the description. If you go to the description of the video, it'll be posted there, and you guys can reach out to me and schedule some time with me, and we hope to see you here in Panama.
Absolutely. Listen, sorry about that. Absolutely. At the end of the day, here's what I know to be true. You cannot get to any place of significance by yourself, guys. And I promise you, the reason is because we all need some help. Y'all be good, and we will check you guys out the next time we get together next week. We'll have something going for you. By the way, if there's something specific that you want to see, anything that you're interested in us covering content-wise, put it in the chat. Let us know, and we hope to see you soon. Y'all be good. We'll talk soon.
Bye, guys.